And someone has kicked it off. Hello from Hamilton, says Kathy. Well, thank you, Kathy. Hello from Montreal, where we're getting a nice picturesque snowfall at the moment as I peer out my window.
And hello from Winterthur, Delaware, which they called it a blizzard. It wasn't like a blizzard by Canadian standards, but we did get like 10 or 11 inches. So it's pretty out the window and the sun is shining and it's happily melting.
Great. It's also a nice moment to enjoy our online meeting, as many people were affected by the giant snowfall south of the border in particular. And I love that all of you are taking the initiative and letting us know where you're tuning in from. It's always incredibly fun. And I recall after our last call, Ali and I did have a moment and we went through where people tuned in from, and we were really astounded that people tuned in from all over the world for our last collab conversation, which was about scrapbooking. So today we chose another topic that both of us find interesting and is present in our collections. And Ali, I'll let you introduce yourself. You go ahead.
Sure. So hello, I'm Ali Alvis. I am curator of special collections at the Winterthur Library, as I said, in Winterthur, Delaware. We are right outside Wilmington, Delaware, if you know where that is. If you don't, it's kind of near Philadelphia.
That's
I
helpful.
told,
I needed that the first time. My geography is not quite up.
yeah. But the Winterthur Library focuses on American decorative arts in a global context, as well as the material culture of everyday life. So paper dolls are something that we have lots and lots of, and I can't wait to talk more about it.
And I am Jacqueline Sundberg. I am a rare books librarian at McGill University in Montreal. And I take care of some very fun collections within our larger special collections unit, one of which is a puppet collection collected by a wonderful female puppeteer, Rosalind Stern. And I was so tempted to bring out all of the miniature toy theater characters, which are, the scholarship will tell you, not paper dolls. So I resisted. I didn't bring out the puppet characters, but I did bring out some items from our children's collections and beyond to play with today at lunch hour. So it's nice to have the reason to dig through and to find some comparables that we can compare on camera. So we'll show some from my collection here at McGill and some from the Winterthur collection. And we encourage you, as we go through, do ask questions and post comments in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that. And if you have questions, we'll also have a time at the end where we can answer those. So do save your questions and put them in the chat function, and we'll try and track that pretty well. I'm joining you from McGill's downtown campus, and this is located as a site. It's on the downtown central Montreal territory, and this place has long served as a site for meeting and exchange amongst many Indigenous nations, including the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations. And today, this is a place that really every time I come, I acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous people that had long stewarded this land before McGill was here, before we met to exchange ideas, before we really tuned in with people from around the globe, from all over. So thank you for letting us know where you are tuning in from. We'd love to see where, I guess, paper doll people, if you want to identify yourselves that way, where you are in the world. So the dolls that we're going to show you today are, well, I'll let Ali tell you about hers, but I'm going to start with one that came from a little bit further afield. So I'm going to change my camera and let you see what I have coming up. So this first one is actually, I'm going to show mine in reverse chronological order. So this is the most recent of the dolls that I am going to show. So right now I've spotlighted just my camera, so it's as big as it is, and you can probably adjust the size of the videos based with the slider on your Zoom app. And this one, I don't know if there's any Russian speakers in the audience. Perhaps you can read it. I definitely cannot. I'm relying on our catalog description and some help from Google to translate it. But it translates apparently to paper and scissors. And it's an appropriate title. Well done to whoever made it. This one's from 1931, and it was printed in the Soviet Union at the time. And what it is actually a booklet of uncut paper dolls. So as I turn the pages here, you can see on this page, it's actually a little sketch of what the final figurines would look like when you make them. And then as we continue through the book, you can see the flat characters that you would either cut out directly or use as a template. So this book, it's printed in not too many colors. It's quite vibrant though. In particular, the red I really enjoy in this book. And it called to me partly because of the recent Olympic Games. I am quite a fan and watched quite a bit of the Winter Olympics. And some of these events, I don't make an appearance, but the athleticism of these little dolls really did make an impression, and part of the reason why I chose it. The back of the book here does have a page of instructions as well as templates. The instructions, I'll translate for you badly. But basically, it tells the user that they can cut out the toys themselves according to the patterns, these templates that you find at the end of the book. Each pattern that they provide here is half of one of the toys. So you would actually, what they encourage you to do, or what this book empowered, is to cut out the templates and use whatever you had at your disposal, whatever paper you had, to actually cut out and make your paper toy. And it does give you more detailed instructions on how to assemble and construct them. And so I was incredibly tempted, of course, to try. This paper itself, it's paper. It's not any specific special kind of paper. It's not terribly high quality. You can see, in contrast with the white paper below it, it's quite yellow. It means it has a fair amount of acid pulp in it. So it's not high quality paper. It's not very thick either. It's almost like a slightly thicker than printer paper weight. So if you actually cut out the figures from this book, which horrors, we won't. The scissors are far away. Don't worry. It would not work very well for the dolls themselves. I took the liberty of using a digital copy and then printing it out onto cardstock to make my little figurine, which actually works remarkably well. So we have the skier who's being pulled behind a horse, which would be a great way to get around in any of those snow-laden states in the last couple of days. This would be a really wonderful way, if the horse, of course, can find his footing in the snow. There's so that one, when you see it flat, this book dates from 1931. We actually have a fairly significant holdings of Soviet children's books from around that time, and there's quite a few selections. This is the only one I found that actually explicitly contained paper dolls. But this is the version of it flat, and this is it, as you see it in 3 dimensions, a little bit poorly under this angle of camera. And you can see that my contemporary impression is a little bit different in color, picked up more of the yellow tones. I really enjoy this book for one other reason. Partly because most of the paper dolls, the other sets that I've seen, are quite prescriptive about, like, not necessarily prescriptive, but they provide the costumes that you then clothe the doll with. This one gives you a template and suggests that you could use absolutely anything to color and cut and create something of your own. And I appreciated that that impulse to empower the young person, whether they had paper or colors or anything. It could be black and white figures, but it's nice to see that the templates, it doesn't necessarily have to be a destructive process. You don't have to cut the book apart to make the toys, but it gives you the tools to be able to do that and to make more of them. There's also a little, I tried this one, it worked quite well. I'll move them aside. There's a little bobsledder, luge, quite cute. And if we compare mine with the original image, I didn't do too badly. The images work pretty well, but I will say a note on the 1931 designer is that paper engineering has come a long way since 1931 when this was made. It's a little imprecise, I have to say. The alignment and the edges and all of this. I don't blame necessarily my handicraft skills, although it could be that. I'm not saying my handicraft skills are perfect. I just noticed the comment in the chat that skiing behind a horse is called ski joring. a popular pastime and sport in the North. That's amazing. I have not had the chance to do that. But there you have it, 1931, our first set of paper dolls. Allie, do you want to say anything about this one?
I love how it incorporates both the sort of doll aspect and the paper engineering aspect.
Yeah,
I think it's fun that the sort of later versions of paper dolls, I mean, obviously this is from 1931, so it's no spring chicken.
no,
Um, but they really get creative with the art form, which I appreciate.
yeah,
It's really riffing on, this is really a toy. You can fold this into a three-dimensional object and play with it.
yeah. I do enjoy that about this one. The next one also has a play on three dimensions, and this one Ali is actually familiar with. This one, the box, if I see up close here, it says pour vos dîners avec les menus et cartes de table de éditeur haut de cœur, vous aurez du succès, which says for your dinners with menus and table cards from Édition Haut de Cœur, you will have success. So a promise of success on the box is always nice. And when we open it up, these little figures are actually dining place cards. So one of the other collections that I curate is actually the historical culinary collections. And that is what we purchased this one to be a part of. But it really does fit the bill quite nicely for paper dolls as well. So these disentangle this lovely lady. They have glitter, they have lace, they have mesh, they have sparkle, and they have drama. And I love all of it. The wee dolls have it all. In this parish publisher, that's Haute Coeur, the name that you had on the front, that publishing house was situated on the Avenue de l'Opéra, in Paris. It was just down the avenue from the Palais Garnier, which is a luxurious Italian opera house. And it's very happily situated in Paris, and the Avenue de l'Opéra leads right up to the opera house. It was home of the National Theatre, the Opéra National de Paris today, now is in residence there. And it's not hard to see the theatricality of these little place cards. There's definitely character and glamour on every single one of these. And they're made actually to be what's called a tent card. So each one has an opening like this, and you can see the skirt actually is loosely attached to the figures. So the artist started out with a doll figure posed as it is, and they hand painted and colored this with ink and colors. And then they did what I want to call is tinseling, that tradition of embellishing printed objects with spangles or with textiles or with glitter or gold. That practice was very common even in the early 1800s. So these are from around, let me look at my notes so I don't say the wrong date here, around 1920, but that's a guess based on the style of makeup, actually, and the style of illustration on the place cards themselves. And the French publisher, like I said, is Haute Coeur, Édition Haute Coeur, and they made specifically invitations, printed place cards. And if anyone wants to do further research on these, you're welcome to to look into it, and we'd be happy to learn more about the publisher and the cards themselves. But the process of creating these ones is pretty interesting because this one in particular, her gown is amazing, but it is actually a mesh. It's completely transparent, and you can see the shape of the female figure beneath it. And the card itself, as I mentioned, the gowns are attached, but they're attached at the top and quite loose. So it leaves a lot of questions, or it suggests questions to me of like, how are these intended to be used? So they're set on the table, they would have the name inscribed here. And then the person sat there, of course, I imagine would be tempted to touch them and to see the mobility of them. The three-dimensionality of them invites that. But clearly the publishing house really had invested time and effort into the unique, everyone is different. And this is how you would set up your dinner party for success. apparently. Anyways, and I think I don't necessarily have a favorite, but I kind of have a few favorites within this set. This is one of them. And it's got a little bit of a crease in it, but she holds her gown, and you can see that even the slippers are glittered and sparkled. The publishing house, as I mentioned, is Édition Haute Coeur. And I can put what info I know about them in the chat a little bit later on. They are, I agree, quite fantastic. We purchased them just a couple of years ago, and they arrived actually when I was away on maternity leave. I came back to a nice surprise, and they had arrived and been cataloged, and I was quite happy to see them out. This is an interesting example. I chose it partly because it's another one where it's blurring the boundaries. So dolls, definitely dolls, doll figurines, but the potential of paper is pretty well endless. The creative potential of what you can make with doll figures this is an example that's very much out of the box, quite literally. But a great example of dolls appearing and as fashion plates, and as in particular with these ones, I think borrowing from the theatricality of the operatic costumes that people would have been seeing down the road. So there's elements of that theatricality to these that is pretty remarkable. And I would love to host a dinner party and use them or replicas. I encourage you to try and make your own.
I think the lady in the top hat with her back to us is my favorite,
This one
with the skirt
is
that kind of looks like a
spectacular. I
butterfly wing.
agree. I'll zoom in on her. The attitude and the makeup is quite extraordinary. If you see, she's got lovely blue eyeliner or blue eyeshadow. Yeah, you can see it. And quite a significant eyeliner. Yeah. Inside,
I
and
feel kinship.
yes, yes, I'd say hers is a little more saturated than yours is. And the pose is wonderful. It's quite a coquettish pose, which also makes me wonder at the nude figures beneath the gowns. And that's something that we can ask of the other dolls that we see, is the figure underneath the gown. Like often it's a one doll body that you then put different gowns upon. That's like the norm for paper dolls. These ones are, once again, not quite typical, but I think the norm of all of the Victorian ones in particular that I've seen, the doll body is clothed. They're very rarely fully nude like these ones. So I'm going to switch my camera around, and I'll pass the baton to you to show some things from Winterthur.
All right. Just a note on the display dolls. My connection to those is I used to be a rare bookseller, and we were actually the ones that sold it to McGill. Although it was after my time there, I was the one who initially cataloged it for the bookseller. And I remember enjoying them immensely and not really wanting to stop cataloging them because they're so pretty.
They are lovely.
At some point I will make my face go away or be small or something like that so we can focus on the dolls. But I just wanted to make a little note before I start yapping about the beautiful things that I have available to show you. So the Winterthur Library collection holds over 1 million items. And just like McGill, some of these are sort of discrete collections on a particular topic or a particular thing. And all of the dolls that I'm going to show you today are from our Maxine Waldron collection. So Maxine Waldron was a collector of not only paper dolls, but paper toys and various paper ephemera. So she collected tens of thousands of paper dolls, dating back to the 18th century, which is really remarkable. She was born in 1898 in Iowa. studied art at the Teachers College of Columbia University in New York, and worked at the Metropolitan Museum's Museum of Art's Department of Education for a number of years. And like I said, she collected dolls, children's books, paper dolls, paper toys, books, articles, and other information about the history of these objects. And she began collecting paper dolls in her childhood. So this was sort of a lifelong collection. And it includes her own dolls as well as many, many, many examples of dolls from other people. So I'm going to unpin my face, remove spotlight, turn off. Okay, so my order is not necessarily as organized as Jacqueline's. But I wanted to show a little bit of the diversity of doll forms and doll wardrobes. So here we have a little jointed chromolithograph paper doll. She is plain on the back, and her little arms move and her little legs move. And this would have been something that you could either purchase and put together yourself. This one actually has a name on the back, which you can see a little bit in raking light. It says Gertrude. So I am not sure if this is Gertrude or if the little girl who played with her was Gertrude. But either way, she's lovely. So the this Gertrude doll is a form that you see throughout the later 19th century and into the 20th century. But you can see that the little girl who played with her created this wardrobe for the doll that is not printed. So all of these little dresses are actually handmade. This is pencil lines and colored pencil. This dates from around 1910-ish. And she even has little hats that are also handmade and hand cut out. They're very delicate, and with little slots to put her head in. One of the fun things about these outfits is that although they are made to sort of be seen from the front, they also have a back. And so when you fold it out, this is the kind of shape you have. And
A nice example of
whoever,
simple paper engineering.
yeah, I know it's very clever. Whoever played with this doll did not get the waist measurements of it quite correct for these little cinched waist outfits. But for the fuller profiles, it fits much better. But oh, this one actually doesn't have a fold. Interesting.
It's an interesting comment in the chat
Oh, here
that
we go.
said this is the first I've seen of this format as well. Most people, the very familiar paper doll format, and I have some in our collection from the 1980s, have tabs on the costume that would fold around the doll behind.
Yeah,
This one seems like a better design, to be honest.
this one is really interesting, and it is a good example of problem solving because, as you can see, little Gertrude's head is not really going to fit through this hole.
Mm.
So there is a slit back here that you can actually slip Gertrude through, and it will fit around her neck. And there we go. And you can
Amazing.
move her little arms. Ta-da!
I think that the dress actually makes her wider than she is tall. Those sleeves are
I
impressive.
agree. And then you can match her little hat. Very fashionable.
Yeah.
So this is not nearly all of this doll's clothes. She has so many little dresses and little hats that I didn't want to get all of them out and get them all mixed up. But just to sort of show you how we normally store her, and I know this is very reflective, but this is a custom sealed Mylar packet. So each of the dresses has a little pocket, and each of the hats has a little pocket.
Hmm.
So that way they don't get all mixed up and we can keep track of them. And there are about four different sheets of these. So whoever was making outfits for Gertrude, or maybe Gertrude herself, was very creative, very interested in these balloon sleeves. She was super into these puffy sleeves. Like, as you can see, most of these have that wide shoulder, which I love.
Yeah. There's and it's interesting if you look like for fashion from a fashion history perspective. Um, is this leg of mutton? Someone put it in the chat, and I was like,
Oh
this is
yeah,
likely
yeah.
that's the name of it. And also comments that the tiny, tiny feet are also emulating adult fashions, the cinched waist and the tiny feet and the giants.
Hmm.
It would be interesting to compare to some of the fashion magazines for the time to see how on
Yeah.
the little doll creator was.
So these next dolls are also very interesting for different reasons. As you can probably tell, they have little photograph heads. I am not sure who the women pictured are. They might be stars of the stage or something who had promotional images circulating around. They are quite rigid and a little bit curved. This is like very thick card. Um, and neither of them really have anything on their backs. Their bottom halves are printed. So this is lithography. So someone actually stuck these photograph heads on these dolls. So there is some customization happening here. But perhaps the most exciting part of these dolls is their trousseaux. So they have fully textile outfits. They do not have tabs on their little dresses, which is interesting. So these are really meant to, I think, be laid on and not necessarily moved about a whole bunch, unless, you are holding them, holding the dresses on. But they are remarkably complex.
Yes, they're
Even this blue
stunning.
one, yeah, which it has all of this ruching. It has a sort of lacy netting up here. There are three little beads on this belt, and then this printed hand. So it was probably put over a design for a paper doll dress for this printed doll, but much more heavily embellished. And the pinking sheer bottom. And what is especially interesting, it just keeps getting more interesting, is that the back is a recycled piece of a ledger book. So, despite the fact that we have these gorgeous fabrics and all of these colors, and they're just incredible, they're examples of recycling and sort of using what you have to hand. And Jacqueline and I were actually talking about this the other day of, there are so many different kinds of fabric on this. It's remarkable. The ability to sort of have this diversity of material for a paper doll is amazing. And Jacqueline said, "Oh, well, they probably had a really deep scrap bag." And I was like, "Oh, of course." So these are very likely pieces of textile that were initially used for full human-sized outfits and um, later,
From them.
pillaged from the scrap pile by whoever was making these dresses.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there's a couple comments in the chat that suggested another theory could be that these would have been samples for fabric for a dressmaker,
Possibly.
possibly rather than a plaything, an actual professional tool as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that would make a
I'm
lot of sense given the sophistication of it.
yes, whoever created these gowns has to know something about draping and fabric manipulation and pattern
Hmm.
creation because they're so complicated.
Yeah. There is a
Another
date on this skirt that is 1824, so these would be after 1824, obviously given the style of the fashion. But that gives us at least a little bit of a ballpark. So these would probably be 1870s-ish, something like that. Just given the silhouettes, the quality of the materials, the photographs for heads,
Hmm.
and
There's another
the
comment about
uh,
suffragette colors.
yeah, I'm not
Green, purple,
sure
and
about
gold on that
that.
previous dress. Oh, wow.
Yeah, this
Every
one is fun.
color.
It has a sort of velvet aspect. Let me get the other one out again. Yeah, I don't know if that would have been purposely suffragette or just happens to be in those colors because that's what they had around. But there's like really remarkable layering on this too. It's
Hmm.
not this stripy stuff all the way up. There's like a little bit of satin under here.
Yeah. I don't know if you can tell from the dolls themselves, but question in the chat, and I second it. Are the original like doll heads behind the photos? Do you think the photo was like a unique
I don't know.
user
The
edition, or
photos
was that the
were
way it was made? Do you think?
so for her at least, her photograph stops here. So it's actually her sort of upper bust area.
Hmm.
And I do think that these were printed dolls originally, and then somebody stuck the head on top. But to do that, I think they had to change the profile of the doll a little bit. So I don't know if her original head is back here, and I don't know if that's supposed to be an eyeball or if it's just a thing. But it is pasted very well onto this doll body, so I wouldn't be able to sort of lift it and see. But yeah, she would have continued up this way.
Hmm.
This doll, she cuts off here. So that's the end of the photograph.
Hmm.
And yeah, these would have been black and white or sepia tone with color added. So the little headpieces were added by hand. The bit of blush you see and the hair highlights would have been added by hand as well.
Yeah.
So they are very pretty. Something that is unfortunate about these is they don't have names on the back. So we don't know who made them. As we saw in the chat, there are theories about who could have made them and why. Maybe these were professionals, maybe this was a very skilled person from a wealthy family. There are a lot of possibilities, and it's frustrating that we can't be 100% certain. And I think my final thing for this section, and then I'll throw it back to Jacqueline, and then we'll see if we have time for other stuff, is this interesting, mysterious box. So as you can see, it has holly leaves on it and a little bit of mistletoe. So this would have been a gift, and it contains everything you need to make a paper doll wardrobe. So this is a kit that was sold by a company called Denison's. They were pioneers of crepe paper. So this is that sort of crinkly, wrinkly paper that can be folded into different shapes. You see it still today at birthday parties. But when it initially came out, it was really being pushed for clothing, not just for dolls, but for people. So we actually have other copies of Denison's publications like this that talk about how to make costumes for your children for their plays or for Halloween or what have you. And this is all about the Denison's dressed doll sets. A word to little dressmakers. These sets of dresses with the dainty hats to match are made up in the latest fascinating styles. So they're actually advertising a different set that you can buy of pre-made um, crepe paper dresses. But this is a kit and it comes with a pattern. So you would be able to cut these dresses to measure. Again, these are little, or not mechanical, but movable dolls. I won't pull them out because they are still actually like attached to this Denison's doll outfit piece. Obviously, whoever was given this did not play with it, unfortunately. But we do have examples of the kinds of dresses they would make, which are Golden
I would
Mylar.
like to receive this as a Christmas gift. Someone just put that comment in the chat and I second it. I would play with it.
So things
Oh,
like this.
wow.
So again, this has little Mylar guys on it, but these are very, very delicate. And in fact, the crepe paper, it's not just crepe paper, it's on a sort of card back to give it a little bit more rigidity with these little shoulder flaps that you could hook onto the doll. And again, we've got these great leg of mutton sleeves. Why did that go out of style? Bring it
Well,
back.
it actually is quite practical because you have the floof and the swish of the upper sleeve, but you can still freely manipulate documents without catching your sleeves on them. So it should come back in
Right?
style for librarians at least.
Yeah. This one is fun because it has this extra bit of like lace paper,
Hmm.
which can be seen up here in this box. So they are using whatever paper they have available to them, as well as these little like metallic belt buckles that are, I think, basically stickers. Let's see if I can lift her out. But it will be the same type of structure. Yeah,
Hmm.
somebody said the hidden shoulder tabs are genius. I agree. That is very clever.
Yeah. I feel like the more contemporary paper dolls, we have a number in our collection, like from the 70s and 80s. I feel like they lost a lot compared with these Victorian
Hmm.
examples. These are so much more cleverly designed. Perhaps
I know they're
the
very
paper tabs, the
complex.
foldable paper tabs that are much more um, familiar, maybe to those of us who grew up in the latter half of the 20th century, who don't frequent collections like the Winterthur or museum collections to see things like this. It's it's really interesting to see how the technology shifted. I mean, part of this is all enabled by the technology of color printing, like the chromolithograph printing and then the die cutting
Hmm.
that made production of dolls like this possible. Um, was an innovation that was just extraordinary. But
Yeah.
that I find interesting. It looks like ribbon, but it's also paper.
I know, and it's these little individual skinny little pieces of crepe paper. It's not even like whole pieces of ribbon. It's these teeny weeny little things.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is the main part of what I would like to show you. If we have time at the end, I can get out a couple other things that delighted me as I was looking for stuff to show because, like I said, we have tens of thousands of paper dolls. And it's a pity that I can't show you all of them, but that would take days, if not months. And yeah, I just recommend that you come to Delaware to check out the Maxine Waldron collection and see what it has to offer.
I plan on taking you up on that whenever it's possible. If not before my sabbatical year, whenever it comes, then definitely doing a sabbatical project. I'm going to leave both spotlighted up next to each other because it's an interesting contrast. This one is another Victorian era paper doll set. This one came as a box set, once again, not quite as lovely as the Christmas set from the Winter Tour, but also quite a nice example of color chromolithography. This one's a bit faded, and of course, it's a little the worse for the wear. It's been through the years. But it's called Fanny Gray, published by Crosby, Nichols and Company in Boston. And originally, the box contained a booklet, a story booklet, that you would tell the story along with the dolls inside. And I chose this one for a couple of reasons, but one of them is that I had never before seen a doll with this sort of, I don't know what word I'm looking for, like technology concept. So you can see this is Fanny Gray's head. And she is only a head. And what you do instead of transferring the gown from changing the gown on an existing doll body, you actually put her head into a little paper slot on the back of each of these outfits. So you would have her with her small kitten, or you would have her out for a barefoot walk, which seems a bit strange to me. I want to read the story to know what the context is of that particular scene. This is one of my favorites here. This one too would have been color printed. And if you slide her face in here, she has a basket of flowers on her head. It seems to be going like flower picking. Um, but there's a few different scenes, and they're all really quite interesting Victorian era gowns. The profile is very similar, the very cinched waist and the lower shoulders, like exposed shoulders. It's an interesting mix of costumes I found from a fashion perspective. This one is like very young girl, very childish, whereas this one seems like she grew up overnight. Perhaps she did in the story. I'm not entirely sure. Um, it could be Little Red Riding Hood. It's giving a Little Red Riding Hood vibes here. Yes, going to see her grandmother in the woods. Um, but it's interesting. In terms of a variety of technologies, you can see on the back that this one was vulnerable to time in that the only connecting point was the wrist. It's been reinforced at some point with a little metal pin, which is like a dressmaking pin. And you can see that the adhesive used at various points has actually yellowed the paper. But they're in remarkably good shape. Aside from the missing story, which is clearly unimportant to whoever collected this one, it was the dolls that had the enduring value. It was intended as an amusement for children and as a gift, a present for the holidays. And the goal, the original booklet had a text that said, if exhibited by one person while another reads the verses describing the figure, it can be made a pleasing entertainment for a party of children. The beautiful designs by a talented lady of this vicinity have been drawn and printed by our best artists. And it's really a specimen of the art of printing in colors. So it's quite a lovely little object. There's another paper doll set that's thought to be one of the earliest paper doll sets published for children called The History of Little Fanny that was published in 1810. I don't know if that rings a bell, but I was like, I wonder if this is a derivative, a descendant, speaking back to that earlier set of dolls. We don't have The History of Little Fanny, but if maybe a further research question, I can look and see if Winterthur has a copy.
I know I need to check the Waldron collection.
Yeah.
Someone said, oh, it's a history of Fanny Gray's life, which
Yes.
would make sense of, she started as a little girl and maybe she went through some hardships and that's why her feet are bare.
Oh,
But I was also wondering, like, maybe the storybook has different stories in it. Oh, but you have a link to the digitized storybook to answer all of our questions,
oh,
which I'm,
perfect. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, Fanny Gray, history of her life.
Lovely. So yeah, maybe I will explore that connection about the earlier set as well as this later one. I'm going to move on for one final thing, and then we can open up to questions. So I did in the title say two-dimensional dolls and beyond. So here is the beyond moment. We have a significant collection of dolls in that collection I mentioned at the beginning, the Rosalind Stern Puppet Collection. I'm gonna move Fanny Gray out of the corner here. So this one is a three-dimensional doll. It's an 19th century bisque doll. This one is so it's a specific finish. The face and the hands actually are bisque porcelain. And it has a bit of a matte finish. She has glass eyes, which are quite gripping, I have to say. I'm grateful. And actually, I can still see the blue gown from your paper doll, which is not that far off
I
from
just
her
put it
gown.
back.
Yeah, it's not that far off. It's got the bustle and the train. that and the silhouette underneath. And this doll is remarkable because the attention that was put into her costumes is the same level of care and detail that you see in those paper doll costumes that you showed. She comes with an entire trousseau. I'm going to back my camera up a little bit because this is just too fun not to share. We have an entire trunk of her clothes. Now, forgive the view you're getting of my lovely 1970s era orange carpet. This is this lovely lady's trousseau of clothes. So you can see that the owner at whatever point did this lovely lining and decoupage, which actually this head is quite similar in style and flowers and decoration to the dolls that you showed. That's interesting. But within it, she has a full selection of accessories, and beneath it are clothes. So she has a parasol if you need to take your doll out on a sunny day. She has a selection of winter apparel. That's actually quite similar to Fanny Gray's muff. She has a selection of hats, even tiny shoes, gilded and decorated. She has underneath quite a few different changes of outfits as well. So someone, once upon a time, lovingly made a complete trousseau for this doll. So you can see that same silhouette that's present. This one features metal buttons. It actually has metal edging here. It's a metal ribbon. It's kind of a mesh ribbon, and then there's also metal details on the skirt. From a textile history perspective, it's really interesting to me to see the layered structure and the types of embellishments that they used on these costumes, because you can see they're actually quite complete. They're lined, they're made so that they can be taken on and off the doll as well. So they're not simply one product sewn together to put on once and not remove, which is something I'm familiar with and can do. But these have a level of reusability and interchangeability that's quite impressive, in my opinion. I'll take out one more yellow outfit. This one would have been perhaps more appropriate for an opera evening if you were taking your doll out on the town. It's got elements of satin. The dress itself is actually made out of cotton, but the lace and the other embellishments are actually in black, which is lovely and quite classic. So there's my venture into three-dimensional doll. I'll leave that one up on the screen, but yes, if you do have questions about any of the items that we have not answered, do put them in the chat. Do you want me to showcase your doll's camera, or your, what would you like to put up?
Do my face camera. We can answer some questions and then I can show one or two more things if we have time.
Sure.
But I see that somebody asked about the illustrations of Kate Greenaway, and how they were very popular in their day and mass printed. I wonder if they made paper dolls at the time.
Mm.
I don't know the answer to that specifically, if Kate Greenaway had her illustrations made into paper dolls. I know that she was a very marketable person.
She was. She was very well published, but we have like a quite significant holdings of children's material here, which I also curate. And I have yet to come across a set of dolls from Kate Greenaway's illustrations. This color also quite wonderful. I'll just keep showing things as we talk. There are that era. I think it would bear looking into. I know I saw a comment from Jacqueline Reed Welsh. Maybe she knows. She's written about girlhood and early childhood children's literature as well. So a nice purple ensemble we have for her.
And the thing about paper dolls in the 19th and early 20th centuries is they weren't necessarily only produced specifically to be paper dolls. Plenty of little girls cut illustrations out of periodicals such as Godey's Lady's Book,
Mhm.
and other publications, and made them into paper dolls. They were not, necessarily supposed to be. Eventually, Godey's Lady's Book in particular began publishing illustrations with the understanding that they were probably going to be cut out and used as paper dolls in the same way that during the Depression, flour sack manufacturers started making flour sacks with pretty patterns on it because they realized that people were making clothes out of them.
Hmm.
Um, and then later on, publications like McCall's and others started publishing weekly or monthly paper dolls. And I actually have one
You could collect them
here.
all. You mentioned when we were planning this talk, I'm gonna put my face back up here, that you had some, one of the questions I saw that went by was whether there were any with a male character.
Yeah.
And I
So there
realized
are a few.
I have not found any, and when I was preparing for this, other than my little Soviet example of athletes, that was the only male figure that I found.
I have a funny one. I can't find it because I've shuffled everything together so much. But if we pin my other me
Yeah.
again, we can see Betsy McCall and Linda McCall.
Oh yeah.
So these are on card, and then their little outfits are uh, thinner paper. And McCall's would every month or so publish new little outfits for Linda and Betsy. This is copyright 1958 and 1959. So yeah, these were also that sort of toy.
Hmm.
I have a paper doll that seems to be intended for boys, but doesn't really have a gender. It's a bear.
Wonderful.
So this is Chubby Cubby.
Oh.
He's a pirate. He is the cutout doll that brings the smile. This envelope contains this cunning teddy bear with complete costumes, hats, and playthings. So we have a little pirate outfit. I love the
Hmm.
tattoos. That makes
Yes,
me very, very happy.
it's appropriate.
We have Cubby himself,
Yeah. And
and
someone's like had just asked about dressed paper, dressed animals. I have one of kittens actually from a reproduction of the kittens one, which is
yeah, I have oh, where is it? I have like Pretty Kitty or something like that.
yeah, this one is one of the ones so that was published in I think this one's in the 80s. This Tom Tierney made a whole series of paper doll books, and we have quite a few of them. And they have that sort of more traditional format of tabs that you would cut out, and in destroying the book, you would have your plaything, which I love.
And
I
here's
have
Pretty
to, I
Kitty.
have to, oh, she's much nicer. Look at her. Pet dressing doll. That's wonderful because people did make outfits for their pets. It's not only a
Hmm.
21st century trend. I have to echo the comments about Anne of Green Gables paper doll sets. When we were looking at the enormous puffed sleeves, I was having Anne of Green Gables feelings about them that, oh, what you would give for a set of puffed sleeves. The kitty looks quite regal. Oh,
Finally, I found the male paper doll. So this was published in McCall's again. This is the New York College Girls Blind Date Kit. So this is a little bit of a joke. Published in 1964.
mhm.
So we have this guy who you could theoretically go on a date with. We have the art major slash theater major. We have like the cool guy, and we have the quote unquote more conservative fellow.
Mm.
All of these outfits come with operating instructions. So for the art major, this model is an art or drama major who performs well in East Side or Village espresso parlors and art movie houses, or in the vicinity of stereo equipment. Care and maintenance. Frequent references
Oh,
to folk music, Federico Fellini, pop art, and Zen or Taoism are required for smooth working relationship. And
that's
then for
wonderful.
there are also some accessories and further operating instructions. For Model B, who looks like someone from the Beatles, this unit is recommended for extremely smooth, fast operation in a variety of settings, especially where the atmosphere is cool. Fits well.
People
It
want a
looks
closer
festive.
look.
Yeah,
Gives you
fraternity house parties, discotheque nightclubs, and he apparently has a good collection of bossa nova, which you really should listen to.
Oh, wow, wonderful.
And the advice for Model C is to check the stock market before you go out with him because that will affect where you go to dinner.
There's a cleft chin there that you could sign up for if you wanted.
Yeah, the hipster guy is the cleft chin.
Yeah,
I don't know what C is doing. He's just kind of like, e.
sandals even. Look at that.
Yeah. I love the facial hair too.
They're great. There's a
The
question in the
different
Q&A actually that I don't know the answer to. Further research needed is do we have any Queen Holden paper dolls? Does that name ring a bell for you, Allie?
any what folded?
Queen Holden.
Bean Holden. I don't know. I'm trying to scroll back up to see how you spell that. Is it just Queen? Queen
And then
Holden.
Holden. Yeah.
Okay. I'll check the Waldron collection for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't spring to the top of my mind,
It seems like
but
it's a
that doesn't
familiar
mean we
name with
don't
some
have it.
people in the meeting. I'd have to look into it further. I don't know, but that pretty kitty is
I love the
really
pretty kitty.
lovely.
I know the pretty kitty and
I
the
imagine
tattooed teddy
it doesn't
bear are
it doesn't have
just,
the tattoo though, probably. The pretty kitty
yeah.
doesn't have tattoos. That's
There's also
interesting.
like a dapper dandy dog or something like that, and I think a fourth animal, but I don't recall.
Yeah. Oh, it's really amazing to see people's memories as well, of playing with dolls when they were younger. So thank you for sharing all your comments and experiences in the chat. It's really interesting. Um,
Mm.
I just caught one that I missed in real time. The Mary Frances housekeeper has a black paper doll as part of their cast, albeit it's unfortunately a caricature. I love the Mary Frances series. I didn't know that there was paper dolls, and I'll have to look into that one. I'm going to make a note of that comment.
Yeah, we do have a number of caricature, racially insensitive paper dolls that came
Mhm.
as sets. Oftentimes, the people of color are depicted as serving staff or maids or something like that. But we have had artists and students here sort of reclaiming the black paper dolls and making new outfits for them that are not just maid or house servant or what have you, which has been really interesting to see. It's very creative and cool.
For sure. There's a lot of potential too with, as we saw with, I think it was Gertrude, the name of the first doll,
Mhm.
or the name of the first doll's owner. There was a question about the date on Gertrude. Do you recall off?
Yes, I responded to that.
Okay, great.
Gertrude was circa 1910s.
Wonderful. We're coming up to the end of our time, and I will say the like closing comments in that I am from McGill Library, Allie's from the Winterthur Library. We are happy to field questions on these topics. We will probably be on screen talking about some other wonderful things next term or the next, because there are wonderful things in all of our collections. So I want to say an enormous thank you to Allie for getting out the dolls and for giving me a reason to get out my dolls as well. And there are
And I would like to say an enormous thank you to Jacqueline for organizing all of this and, being on me about actually coming to meetings.
not a problem. We actually have the doll that you can still see in the background here, our Beast doll. We actually have a full list of the three-dimensional dolls that's now in our archival catalog. So we will send out an email after this with some links to our collections. We will put the recording up on YouTube so you can revisit some of the items that you maybe missed or want to see again. And we will include the link so you can browse some of the collections for yourselves. And do send us a note or come for a visit if you're in the area of either of our institutions. We would love to see you en vraie vie. Yeah. And with that, I think we will sign off. Questions coming in. We will do more in the future. If you have topics that you really want to hear about, we're open to suggestions, although I don't think we'll ever run out of of interesting things to pull from our collections.
I know I could do a whole presentation on teddy bears.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
game. Yeah, they peluche. I'd have to give you only the storybook versions. We don't have any actual teddy bears in our collection.
We might have one or two, but yeah, it's mostly storybooks and folks like Chubby Cubby here.
I could find maybe a pattern or two. This is one I didn't have time to show, but maybe there's a pattern for teddy bears in our collection.
Hmm.
That could be true. And final question, which I'll answer before we sign off, is if you want to find out about upcoming sessions, we do have a mailing list at McGill. When you did RSVP for this event, you could opt into the mailing list. If you didn't and you still want to, feel free to email me and I can add you to the mailing list. I'm not sure, does Winterthur have a comparable mailing list that they could
Not
opt into?
really,
Okay.
but we do have an events page,
Mhm.
although you won't be able to find out about McGill events there. We do have plenty of in-person events and hopefully more digital events to come.
Yeah. Well, so yes, you can sign up for the McGill Library newsletter and you will hear about the next one that Allie and I managed to plan and execute. On that note, I will wave goodbye twice and give a fireworks thumbs up. We'll see if it works. No. Oh, it does.
Yay!
4 paper dolls on our screens. So au revoir tout le monde, and thank you for tuning in.